May 31st, 1984, 11 p.m., Mecklenburg Correctional Center, Virginia. The guard at the outer gate received a call from his supervisor. There was a bomb in Building 1. Open both gates immediately. Bring the prison van to the building, now. Prison regulations strictly prohibited both gates from being opened simultaneously. But this was an emergency, a bomb threat. The guard broke the rules. Minutes later, 6 men in heavy protective gear emerged from the building. One of them was calmly spraying a fire extinguisher on what appeared to be an explosive device. They loaded it into the van, drove straight out through the open gates. The guards thought they had averted a catastrophe. They were wrong. Those 6 men weren't a bomb disposal team. They were prisoners, death row inmates. Every single one of them a convicted murderer. Some were serial killers. The bomb was a television set wrapped in a blanket. How do you escape from a maximum security death row? How do you convince guards to open every door for you? And what happens when 6 of America's most dangerous killers are suddenly free? This is the story of the Mecklenburg prison break, the first time in American history that death row inmates escaped from prison. Mecklenburg Correctional Center was known for its high security measures. Located in Virginia, it housed the state's most dangerous criminals. Building 1 contained Section C, the death row unit. The men inside that section were the worst of the worst. Murderers who had committed crimes so brutal that the state had decided they should die. When the escape was discovered, a massive alert was triggered. Police, FBI, the governor's office, every available resource was mobilized. 6 escaped killers on the loose. There was no room for delay. Helicopters took to the air. Vehicles flooded the streets. Officers and police dogs searched the ground. The military and National Guard were put on high alert. Officials were terrified about public safety. These weren't ordinary criminals. They were condemned killers who had nothing to lose, already sentenced to death, no fear of punishment, no conscience to hold them back. If any of them crossed paths with an innocent person, it could turn into a disaster. The investigators arrived at the prison. The warden explained what they had found. When guards entered Section C, everything was in chaos. The place had been turned upside down. Guards were restrained and tied up. The prisoners had taken complete control. The investigators asked about the escaped inmates. The answers were not reassuring. 2 of them stood out as the most dangerous: James Briley and Linwood Briley, brothers, leaders of a gang. Their victim count ranged from 11 to 20 people. All of their murders had been particularly brutal. In one of their crimes, James Briley assaulted a woman in front of her husband and their 5-year-old son. Then he killed the entire family, including the child. The 3rd prisoner was Earl Clanton. He had killed an elderly woman, was granted parole pending trial. During that parole, he killed another woman, a school librarian, stabbed her 8 times in the head, then strangled her to death. The 4th prisoner was Wilbert Evans, convicted of assaulting and killing 2 elderly women in their 60s. The 5th prisoner was Derek Peterson, robbed a supermarket of $6,000, then killed the store manager. The 6th prisoner was Willie Jones, broke into the home of an elderly couple, killed the husband, asked the wife to pray for him, then killed her and set the house on fire. 6 convicted murderers, now free. The lead investigator was confident they would eventually be captured. What worried him was the possibility of them harming innocent people before that happened. As the search radius expanded, investigators desperately sought any lead. Their first step was to examine Section C, search the cells. They found no clues about where the prisoners had gone, but they did discover something disturbing. Makeshift knives and sharp weapons, hidden in various places, inside table legs, behind loose panels, everywhere. The escaped prisoners were armed with edged weapons. The level of danger had just increased. The investigators turned their attention to the guards who had been found bound and restrained. asked if they had heard anything about where the prisoners planned to go. The guards denied hearing anything. But the investigators' suspicions started to shift. It was possible that one of the guards had assisted the prisoners. After all, the building was supposed to be highly secure. Prison guards were susceptible to bribery, low salaries, difficult working conditions, mistreated by inmates daily. The investigators sat down with each guard, asked them to explain exactly what had happened. How had the prisoners managed to overpower them, take their uniforms, escape the building so easily? The guards revealed something interesting. About 2 months before the escape, an anonymous message had been sent to the state prosecutor's office. The message warned that there was a bomb inside Section C. The prisoners intended to use it in an escape plan. The warden had ordered searches. Guards with trained dogs went through every cell, checked every belonging, found nothing. The investigators now suspected that report had been fabricated by the prisoners themselves to plant the idea of a bomb in the guards' minds, so that when the actual escape happened, the bomb threat would seem believable. Through the guards' testimonies, the investigators began piecing together how the escape had unfolded. On the day of the escape, the prisoners were engaged in outdoor activities, playing basketball in the prison yard, 5 guards supervising them. 2 prisoners approached a guard, Willie Turner and another inmate. They said they wanted to return to their cells early. One claimed a knee injury. The other needed to use the restroom. This violated prison policy. If any prisoners wanted to return early, all prisoners should return together. But the guards broke protocol. 2 guards accompanied the 2 prisoners back, leaving only 3 guards supervising the remaining inmates. Fewer guards, less attention, the perfect setup. When the scheduled outdoor time ended, the guards led all prisoners back to the building. They were not particularly attentive, didn't anticipate anything unusual. As they entered, an additional guard was present at the gate control. He had a panel with buttons that could open and close electronically operated doors throughout the section. The guards hadn't even counted the prisoners, a basic protocol, completely ignored. Suddenly, chaos erupted among the prisoners, pushing, shouting, creating a commotion near the entrance. The guards were drawn to the disorder, failed to notice one of the prisoners slip into a nearby restroom, the guard restroom, off limits to inmates. This prisoner was Earl Clanton. His mission was to stay hidden, hold the lock from inside, wait for a specific signal. Outside, the guards regained control. The prisoners quieted down. Their goal had been achieved. Clanton was in position. The guards had no idea anyone was missing. The guards opened the door to the cell area, ushered the prisoners inside, moved them away from the gate area. Clanton remained hidden in the restroom. Later, a guard tried to open the restroom door. The lock wouldn't budge. Clanton was holding it from inside. The guard signaled to a colleague, gestured for him to use another toilet. Prison rules dictated that jammed doors should be immediately reported to maintenance. This protocol was also ignored. Section C was divided into 2 zones. Between them was the gate control room, where the guard responsible for doors was stationed. The escape plan began when one of the prisoners knocked on the window to get the gate guard's attention. He had a book, wanted to pass it to another prisoner in the second zone. The prisoner asked the guard to deliver the book to James Briley, one of the brothers. The gate guard agreed, left the control room, left the door slightly ajar. A habit of the gate guards. The prisoners had noticed it. They decided to exploit it. Meanwhile, prisoners in the cell area were preparing. One of them, Willie Turner, possessed remarkable craftsmanship skills. He could fashion knives from almost nothing, materials from the restroom, edges of doors, sharpened with stones until deadly, hidden in books, tables, places guards would never check. The investigators believed Willie Turner was the mastermind behind the entire operation. The gate guard took the book to the other side, handed it to James Briley. James raised his voice, thanked the guard loudly for the book. This was the signal. Clanton, hiding in the restroom, heard the phrase. He immediately ran to the control room, pressed the button that opened all the cell doors. Suddenly, every door swung open. Chaos erupted. The prisoners grabbed their hidden weapons, attacked the guards. Within minutes, the guards became the prisoners. The prisoners became the guards. They tied up every guard, confiscated batons, took wallets and personal belongings, took complete control of Section C. They isolated the section from the rest of the prison, but they needed a high-ranking officer. The guards they had captured couldn't issue orders to open the main gate. One of the captured guards called a supervisor, said there was an emergency. A prisoner had been injured in a fight, asked the supervisor to come personally. The supervisor was too far away. He sent a lower-ranking officer instead. When the officer entered the section, he saw what appeared to be a guard in the control room, asked to be let in. The figure in the control room wasn't a guard. It was a prisoner wearing a stolen uniform. The officer was ambushed, tied up with the others. The prisoners continued this tactic, lured more guards and officers into the section. One by one, each new arrival was apprehended, stripped of their uniform, and locked up. Even the nurse responsible for the section was taken captive, locked in a cell alone. Clanton entered her cell, intended to assault her. The nurse screamed, pleaded for help. The captured guards heard her cries. They were powerless to do anything. James Briley joined Clanton. But then another prisoner entered, berated them for their actions. Then Willie Turner, the mastermind, came in, made them stop. They left the nurse alone. 2 hours had passed since the escape. Still no trace of the prisoners. The investigators continued interrogating the guards, piecing together the timeline. The lieutenant who supervised the prison had been contacted earlier, but had sent a lower-ranking officer instead. When that officer didn't report back, the lieutenant decided to investigate himself. He entered Section C through a side entrance. The door automatically closed behind him. As he surveyed the chaos, prisoners disguised as guards ambushed him, restrained him, detained him with the others. Now they had a lieutenant, someone with authority to issue orders. There was another control room at the main entrance of Building 1. A female guard was stationed there. Her room could be locked from all directions, impossible to access unless she opened the doors herself. The prisoners coerced the lieutenant into calling her, made him say that another guard would come to take her place. The request seemed unusual, but the guard trusted her superior, didn't raise objections. Earl Clanton and Derek Peterson approached in stolen uniforms. She opened the door, they seized her, bound her. Or now the prisoners controlled all doors in Building 1. One obstacle remained, the large external gate, the prison's main entrance, 2 adjacent gates that were never supposed to be opened simultaneously. They coerced the lieutenant again. He called the guard at the external gate, said there was a bomb in Section C, instructed the guard to open both gates immediately, bring the prison van to Building 1. The guard remembered the anonymous bomb warning from 2 months ago, the search operations that had followed. The threat seemed believable now. He opened both gates, drove the van to the building. Meanwhile, the prisoners grabbed a small television from one of their cells, covered it with a blanket, their fake bomb. Not all prisoners involved in the operation intended to escape. Some had to remain in control rooms to open doors. Willie Turner, the mastermind, chose to stay. He had an ongoing appeal against his death sentence, wanted to wait for the outcome. He helped his fellow inmates but didn't leave with them. The 6 who escaped grabbed riot control equipment from a storage room, helmets, shields. They used a stretcher to carry the television, covered it with a blanket. When they put on the helmets and heavy gear, their identities became completely concealed. Anyone who saw them would believe they were a specialized unit. The guard at the main gate had parked the van at the entrance, had no idea what was happening inside. Suddenly, the prisoners burst out, shouted at the guard to flee. claimed they had a live bomb that could explode at any moment. One of them sprayed it with a fire extinguisher. The guard panicked, fled the area. The prisoners got into the van, drove out through the open gates. They were free. 3 hours had passed, no trace of the escapees. The investigators had gathered all the details of how the escape happened, but none of it told them where the prisoners had gone. The prisoners drove the van for a while, feeling euphoric. They passed a police officer in his patrol car. The officer saw them. They greeted him. He greeted them back. The officer was in North Carolina. News of the prison break hadn't reached local law enforcement yet. He assumed they were officers transporting inmates. Prisoner transfers often happened at night. After this encounter, reality set in. They were driving a prison van with the logo clearly visible. They needed to get rid of it. They argued about their destination, eventually reached a small town called Warrenton in North Carolina, found a secluded spot among trees, parked the van. They split into two groups, the Briley brothers, Willie Jones, and Wilbert Evans in one group, Earl Clanton and Derek Peterson in the other. The four in the first group ran through the forest, found clothes hanging on a washing line in front of a house, changed out of their guard uniforms into civilian clothes. 3.5 hours after the escape, police finally got their first lead. A patrol car spotted the prison van about 50 kilometers from Mecklenburg. The officers cautiously approached, found it empty. The prisoners had continued on foot. Inside were the helmets and equipment they had used. The investigation shifted to North Carolina. The FBI was summoned to lead the case. The prisoners had crossed state borders, now a federal matter. The focus centered on Warrenton. Investigators surmised the prisoners had likely split into smaller groups. Remaining together would increase chances of recapture. A dedicated hotline was established. Every minute brought reports of sightings. None led anywhere. Around 5 a.m., a report came in. A man's pickup truck had disappeared from in front of his house in Warrenton. Blue truck with some red on the rear, full tank of gas. If the escapees had stolen it, they could be anywhere by now. The search radius expanded by hundreds of kilometers. Morning arrived, still no trace. Checkpoints on every road, every vehicle stopped and inspected. Helicopters in the sky, officers on the ground, trained dogs, every available resource deployed. The massive police presence had unintended consequences. Residents of Warrenton woke to helicopter noise and police sirens, checkpoints on every street. Then they learned from the news that 6 dangerous killers had been in their town the previous night. Panic spread. People flooded gun shops, bought every firearm and bullet available. Shops sold out completely. People barricaded themselves in their homes, took shifts staying awake, armed and ready. June 1st, 1984, 5 p.m., one day after the escape. Earl Clanton and Derek Peterson were walking the streets of Warrenton in broad daylight. They had changed clothes, but Clanton still wore the guard's jacket with the insignia removed. They entered a laundromat, wanted a secluded place to eat food they had bought. A police patrol passed by. The head of the prison's emergency response team was in charge. He had excellent knowledge of guard uniforms. His eyes fell on the laundromat. He immediately noticed Clanton's jacket, even without the markings. He recognized the color and design. He directed the vehicle toward the shop, entered with his assistant, both armed. They found Clanton inside, ordered him to raise his hands. 19 hours, that's how long their freedom lasted. The news should have been reassuring. Instead, it terrified the townspeople. These criminals had been walking the streets, entering shops, among them all along. 2 down, 4 still free. The Briley brothers were the priority, the most brutal of the group, cold-blooded killers with multiple victims. That night, around 11 p.m., in Portsmouth, Virginia, 300 kilometers from Warrenton, a police patrol spotted 2 individuals attempting to steal a car. An officer ordered them to raise their hands. They fled. When the officer chased them, they opened fire. It was the Briley brothers, ready to kill even police to stay free. The FBI had no leads on their location. Their only option was to monitor family and contacts. They reviewed prison call records. Many numbers the Brileys had called were fake, false information deliberately provided. The FBI obtained real records from the telecommunications company. The most frequent contact was an uncle. They visited the uncle, didn't want to raise suspicions, assigned a team to monitor his activities. If the Brileys contacted him, they would know. Meanwhile, Wilbert Evans and Willie Jones had taken 8 days to reach Vermont, near the Canadian border. Their goal was to cross into Canada. They had found a secluded spot in the forest to hide, but they were running low on fuel. Evans left Jones in the woods, drove to a nearby town called Stamford, entered an antique shop, pulled a knife on the owner, demanded money. She gave him $80, enough for fuel to reach Canada. Evans drove away, but the owner ran after him, got a glimpse of the truck and license plate, called police immediately. The police realized the stolen truck matched the one reported missing from Warrenton. An officer in plain clothes happened to be nearby. The truck passed him. He turned around, activated lights and siren. Evans didn't stop. A second patrol car joined the chase, blocked the road. The question was whether Evans would stop or resist. He stopped, surrendered, was arrested. The following day, something bizarre happened. Willie Jones called the police emergency line, said his name, explained he was one of the escaped inmates, but now he was tired, wanted to turn himself in. The operator was stunned, asked his location. Jones described the area, couldn't pinpoint exactly where he was, but the operator figured it out, sent a patrol car. They found him standing at the roadside, signaling to them. When investigators later asked why he surrendered, Jones explained. He had been lost in the woods, waiting for Evans. After a full day with no sign, he grew uncertain. Maybe something had happened. Maybe Evans had abandoned him. Deep in the forest, hungry, unable to find food, he reached a point of desperation. What saddened him afterward was discovering he had been only a few kilometers from the Canadian border. Could have walked there. The border wasn't heavily guarded. He realized too late. 4 captured, 2 remaining. The Briley brothers were still free. The FBI continued monitoring the uncle. Days passed. No contact. Then, on June 19th, 1984, surveillance observed 2 men working on a car in front of a car dealership. They resembled the Brileys, but investigators weren't certain. They sent an undercover operative, a local who could blend in, strike up conversation, confirm identities. The operative returned, confirmed one of them was James Briley, but not his brother. The investigators didn't want to arrest just one. They wanted both simultaneously. That evening, they confirmed Linwood was also inside the dealership, some kind of gathering, a small party. Once they were certain both brothers were there, police raided the location, surrounded the building, aimed weapons. Everyone inside dropped to the ground, except the Briley brothers. They stood frozen, deliberating whether to surrender or fight. Police had them surrounded from all directions, firearms trained on them. Any wrong move meant death. After tense moments of contemplation, they made the wise choice, dropped to the ground. 19 days, the manhunt was finally over. All 6 death row inmates captured, no innocent people killed during the operation. The FBI held the Briley brothers in federal custody until they could be safely returned to Virginia, taking no chances with another escape. Mecklenburg prison went into lockdown. The warden and assistant security director were indefinitely suspended. 5 guards were suspended. Changes were implemented. Restroom doors remained locked at all times. Guards needed keys. Any violation meant immediate dismissal. An electronic system was installed. Both external gates could never be opened simultaneously. One had to close before the other could open. Every regulation and protocol was strictly enforced, no exceptions. As for the 6 escapees, the state expedited their death sentences. Linwood Briley was executed in the electric chair in 1984. James Briley followed 6 months later. Earl Clanton was executed in 1988, Derek Peterson in 1991, Willie Jones in 1993, all by electric chair. Wilbert Evans was executed in 1996. By then, the electric chair had been suspended. He received lethal injections. Willie Turner, the mastermind who chose to stay behind, was executed in 1995. His appeal had failed. His participation in the escape had sealed his fate. Every prisoner who participated in the operation was eventually executed. Remember the question from the beginning, how do you escape from death row? The answer is ingenuity, patience, and guards who don't follow their own rules. A fake bomb warning planted months in advance. A book passed between cells. A restroom lock held from inside. Uniforms stolen one by one. A television wrapped in a blanket. 6 condemned men walked out of a maximum security prison by pretending to save it from an explosion. They exploited every weakness, every broken protocol, every guard who took a shortcut. James Briley, Linwood Briley, Earl Clanton, Derek Peterson, Willie Jones, Wilbert Evans. 6 men who escaped death row. They couldn't escape death itself, just delayed it for a few weeks. And that brings us to the end of our story. If you like it, do not forget to like and subscribe and activate the bell button so that you can receive new videos.